You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Legendary GOP strategist blows apart JD Vance's vision for America as a brave mistake, based on an article by Matthew Chapman. Heritage is a weapon, not a history. The fight inside the right. Karl Rove's attack on JD Vance is not a defense of democratic pluralism. It is a Republican elder statesman objecting to a younger Republican saying the quiet part out loud. Vance's heritage, Americans' language, draws a straight line from ethnicity to belonging, and Rove is right to call it ugly. But the important fact is not that Rove discovered principle. It is that the party now contains an open argument over whether American identity should be coded as inheritance, bloodline, and sanctioned descent. That is not an academic quarrel. It is a power struggle over who gets to define the nation, who gets to exclude, and which faction of the right gets to wear patriotism as a costume while pushing hierarchy underneath it. What Rove actually named. The source gives us one useful thing, Rove's own evidence that the American project was built by people who were not born to prestige. It points to immigrants, Catholics, the descendants of the unwanted, and the blunt fact that 1 in 7 residents is an immigrant. That is a direct refutation of Vance's ethnic hierarchy. And it is hard to miss how real Vance's case is when even a Republican strategist has to remind him that the country was not built for an inherited aristocracy. Rove also notes that movements like the American Protective Association once treated Catholics as unacceptable. That matters because Vance is a Catholic convert. The old exclusionary logic does not become less poisonous because it is being turned against a new target. It just reveals the mechanism. Once politics is organized around real Americans, the category keeps shrinking until it becomes a weapon. The misdirection, the frame here, could tempt readers into treating this as a civilizing intervention from one conservative against another. That would be a mistake. Rove is not rejecting exclusionary politics in general. He is rejecting a version of it that is too explicit, too crude, and too easy to quote back to its author. He is defending a broader nationalist story that still assumes some people can claim a country more naturally than others, just not in Vance's blunt phrasing. That is the core misdirection in the story. The issue is not that Vance misspoke. The issue is that he articulated, with unusual clarity, the logic many politicians prefer to keep implied. Some Americans are permanent insiders, others are tolerated guests, and the state should be staffed accordingly. Power, not confusion. Vance's formulation matters because he is vice president, not a pundit in a side channel. When someone in that office talks about a particular place with a particular people, he is not exploring identity. He is helping normalize political exclusion from within the executive branch. That is institutional power speaking, not cultural commentary. Rove's op-ed shows how the Republican establishment responds when one of its own makes the project too legible. It does not abandon the hierarchy. It polices the language. That is a familiar technique of elite preservation to condemn the excess, preserve the structure, the pattern beneath it. This story fits a larger pattern in American politics. Reactionary nationalism regularly dresses itself up as cultural seriousness, while its real function is sorting people into the deserving and the disposable. Heritage is a polite word for inherited permission. It tells some Americans they belong before they act, while forcing everyone else to audition for basic legitimacy. Rove's piece accidentally confirms a point it wants to deny. America has always been a project of conflict between inherited status and democratic inclusion. Whenever politicians try to reverse that and make birthright into a hierarchy, they are not describing the country. They are trying to own it. The larger lesson, the danger is not just that Vance says this plainly, is that the political system keeps producing officials who think the country can be narrowed by rhetoric and managed through identity sorting. That is how democratic language gets hollowed out, first by exclusion dressed as realism, then by establishment figures who object only when the exclusion becomes embarrassing. The answer is not nostalgia for better manners. It is recognizing that citizenship cannot be treated as a blood certificate, and that any politics built around real Americans is already doing the work of exclusion. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Roar's story for today's article, with the automated voice of Norman. Thanks for listening.